Technology was supposed to bring the means of music production to everyone, to give us all the chance to sidestep the music labels, the gatekeepers of success. No longer was our music going to be subject to the whims of some suit at a label. Technology gave us the means to deliver high-quality recordings to the world. And because of all that hard work, Daniel Ek, the head honcho over at Spotify, is now worth $4.8 billion! And recently, this dickhead had the audacity to say the cost of creating music or content is close to zero in the modern world. Hey asshole, that's not the cost of creating music! You've confused that with what you pay the artists. You know, the people whose product you sell, the people whose backs you made those billions off of? Yeah, maybe we were better off with the labels. It's not just Spotify though. What really killed music was another asshole billionaire named Zuckerberg. A friend of mine recently sent me this the other day, and I think this sums up just how bad things have gotten for all of us, especially when it comes to bands in the hard rock and metal genres. Now, this comes from the Ultimate Guitar page. We have progressed into a technological kind of arena where producers don't do anything that is not safe. And while Slash is absolutely right in this assessment, it's the response from Mr. Paul Ogrzek that really got my attention. It's the symptom of an overall problem in the self-conscious digital world where folks are 10 times more motivated to not get ripped to shreds by critics than to inspire creation. Paul, my hat's off to you. That has to be one of the most important statements made about music I've read in the last 10 years. This is exactly why things have gone to shit. Now, if we go back almost 20 years from 2005 to 2008, social media was a very different landscape. The number one place online? MySpace. And it actually fostered creativity. Anybody remember this? All the band pages had their own look. MySpace actually encouraged people to learn some basic HTML so they could customize their pages and differentiate themselves from each other. Because MySpace understood one fundamental thing about the human condition. We listen with our eyes. And there was actually a music scene that went along with this. So many bands were coming out with their own sounds, with their own styles. Even here in Windsor, Ontario, the fucking dullest place in the universe, we had a pretty ripping music scene. And I remember this vividly. Halloween night 2008, the Chubby Pickle. This was a killer local music venue right on Windsor's main drag, Olette Avenue. Now, many of my American viewers are familiar with this street, as so many of you have made the pilgrimage up here. Simple reason? The surrounding state's drinking age is 21, and in Canada, it's only 19. Every weekend, Windsor would be invaded by party-seeking American kids, and there was such a cool vibe going on. Windsor had so many original bands playing, and one local group, Ashes of Soma, was even starting to make some waves on Detroit radio. And that was completely unheard of. In fact, Windsor's music scene was so popular, that Chubby Pickle gig was sold out. I think there were 6 bands playing that night, and I made a record with every single one of them. In fact, my studio was booked for a year solid at that point. Now, I can only imagine that this scene played out in city after city across North America. Was your town's music scene happening during the MySpace days? Let me know in the comments. But in Windsor, live original music was happening. And let's not forget that Guitar Hero and Rock Band video games were incredibly popular at the time, and there's no doubt that they inspired millions to try music for real. But the main driver was the social media ecosystem at the time, MySpace, because it was a fun place to get your music heard and hang out on. And it was a great place to discover all kinds of new bands. This is where I found out about Jaded, an all-girl throwback to 80s metal. The guitarist in that band, Britt Lightning, is now playing in Vixen, so that worked out pretty well for her. I also found an incredibly cool Japanese group, Gunship 666, a great band with one of the best song titles ever, Kamikaze Fuck You. However, in 2009, MySpace began losing traffic to Facebook, and this is where things started going to shit. So let's check out some of the band pages on Facebook in 2024. It's all the fucking same! It's like Zuckerberg saying to us, you can be as creative as you like, as long as it's within this very limited framework. Take a look at this shit. Every banner's in the same place, every circle image is the same spot, the band photos are in the same spot. This fucking sucks! But this is a great parallel for what's going on in modern metal as well, because what's happening visually on Facebook is the same thing that's happening to the music. Everything has to be time-aligned. Everything has to be pitch correct. Everything has to be perfect. And if it's not, you're going to be eviscerated in the comments by your competition. You can be as creative as you want, as long as it's perfect. Now let's be clear, those comments aren't coming from your fans. They're coming from the other bands that want the same attention that you're getting. Those comments are coming from people who'll never pay a penny for your music, no matter how good it is, because they don't want you to win. Facebook has devolved into a dumpster fire of bad vibes, bad behavior, and constant put-downs because it enables assholes. Now, we already saw this happen way back in the early 2000s on the original GarageBand.com. Anybody remember that site? I just did a Google search for it and I can't even find one single screenshot of what that page even looked like. But before Apple bought the name, GarageBand.com was a very different place. It was a place to upload your music and get it reviewed by other musicians. The deal was you review 3 songs and in turn you'll get a review of one of your songs. I spent a lot of time on this site and I learned pretty quickly that most people back then couldn't record for shit. And the songwriting was fucking atrocious. But the one big takeaway, other musicians did not want you to succeed. They weren't gonna buy your record, they were only there to get attention for themselves, so they trashed everything they heard in order to quickly get some feedback on their own material, which they expected would be given high praise because nobody else would ever do the same to their song, not when it was obviously written by geniuses. Now, I wasn't very surprised when this site didn't last. You can't poison the well and expect people to keep coming back. Except in Facebook's case, they've managed to figure out a way to give people the right amount of dopamine hit while essentially doing exactly what GarageBand.com did on a much, much larger scale. For instance, let's say you've started a new music project. You work your ass off on a song and you were dumb enough to release it into the Zuckerberg hellscape. You know the old joke about guitar players screwing in a light bulb, how it takes 1 to screw it in and 35 saying they could do it better? Yeah. That's going on right now on Facebook when it comes to your music. The people affected by your music enough to leave a comment will, without fail, try to push you down in order to elevate themselves. Because no matter the format or the presentation, human nature rears its ugly head. Envy, jealousy, and arrogance are what drive people to comment. Metal's DIY work ethic has devolved into a mudslinging, anything you can do, I can do better online community. And by doing it better, you mean spending even more hours in front of a computer, pitch correcting and timelining a mediocre performance into perfection, as opposed to the loser who just posted his song online that somehow committed the horrible crime of having one drum fill slightly off time. It's a vicious circle of creating something, uploading it, having it attacked in the comments, and trying again. The only problem is, nobody is taking a step back to look at the big picture to see that it's not a circle, but a whirlpool. And the whole thing is going down the drain. I think Facebook's had a horrible impact on the local music scene as well. As far as Windsor's concerned, live music has gone from sold-out shows for band playing original music to band practice with a bar. Holy freedom fries, the first annual Spectre Digital Savage Summer Super Sale has been held over. In the spirit of independence, we are revolutionizing the world of pro audio plugins with a deal so insane you won't find anything like it anywhere else. You're gonna get your hands on the ultimate virtual rhythm section, Element Bass Amp, Singularity Virtual Bass, and Extinction Level Event 2.0 drums. This package is so powerful, so explosive, it'll rock your world all summer long. But I'm just getting started. The Savage Summer Super Sale includes my absolute favorite beginner amp set, the Bogren Amp Knob. Just turn it up and it works. No tone wood required. But the fireworks continue. You're also gonna get Scott Elliott's Guitar Tone Mastered, Alex Nasli's mixing and mastering a full metal album, and all of my courses as well. Total Heavy Guitar, producing prog metal, mixing symphonic folk metal, and mixing metal and Reaper with free plugins. We've even stuffed this bundle with Metal Essentials Volume 1 and Classic Metal, the custom MIDI groove packs for Extinction Level Event, so you won't be sitting there trying to play Connect the Dots instead of rocking out. We've jammed so much into this bundle, I can't even list everything included without running out of time. So celebrate freedom this summer like any self-respecting audio engineer would from the comfort of an air-conditioned studio. The Savage Summer Super Sale is here, but it's only gonna last until Monday night. Then, like a firework lighting up the night sky, it is gone. Get it now for only $177 or 4 easy payments of only $44.25. Click the link below. Time is running out. Now, Andrew Huang had a great point in his book, Make Your Own Rules, and this needs to be shouted at top fucking volume to you and your bandmates until you understand this. Most people listening to your music are not going to comment. It's simple numbers, case in point. Here's a video I did a few weeks ago that got 250,000 views, and that's a great performer for this channel, and I'm grateful to everybody who watched it. However, it got 1,800 comments. And this goes two ways. Either people are too enthusiastic and agree way too easily, or they're pissed off and they leave a hate comment. Now, don't get me wrong, I welcome all the comments. My point here is that the vast majority of viewers aren't leaving a comment. They're watching, enjoying, and then going on with their lives. The exact same principle applies to your music. Don't ever forget it. And bear in mind, not only do we have content creators, but we also have comment creators. People who won't comment what they actually think, but comment what they know will get the most likes. Now, where the comments actually count is if somebody says you suck in a very creative way and then it gets 3,000 likes. That's a pretty good indication that your song might need a little bit of work. But don't obsess over what some random asshole is saying and nobody else is paying attention to. And here's the rub. We obsess over the wrong things. Oh no, somebody didn't like my song. I need to adjust my entire worldview so everybody loves me. Let me say this as clearly as possible. It doesn't matter what you put out. Some people are just not gonna like it, and some are gonna downright hate it. If we make the thing that nobody can take issue with, then guess what? It's gonna be really boring, which is exactly the kind of music we're getting right now. Because now we've got conformist metal. People creating music for an online subgroup or forum that are too cowardly to do something different because they're scared shitless of what the forum trolls will say. Look guys, it's really hard to take your rage seriously when it's been time-aligned, filtered, and refined until it doesn't resemble anything human anymore. In fact, so many of these modern metal bands have become the very posers that were so despised during the late 80s thrash era. Back then, everybody thought it was the lipstick bands that were the posers, and yes, there were some truly awful ones that do come to mind, but at least those guys could write hooks. And they weren't obsessed with the idea of fitting into a box or doing the exact same thing everybody else was, including using somebody else's presets. They were obsessed with getting laid, but at least they were genuine. And we just don't get that anymore. We get bands pretending to be better than they actually are. Except, of course, when it comes to the songwriting, because no amount of editing is going to make your song memorable. It's only going to make it even more boring than it originally was. Just when the hell did producing music go from trying to capture the best performance possible to playing the let's line the spikes up on the grid game? Well, it's not too difficult to see where things are going wrong. Learning to record real amps and real drums is difficult and it can take years to master. And not to mention, it can be really expensive, especially when it comes to recording drums. I should know, I've dropped a lot of money into that. So most new guys are gonna go in full force with the editing simply because it's the easiest thing to learn quickly. And they get obsessed over the slightest imperfection. The result is the music becomes something which it is not, an overcooked steak that has the consistency of 75-year-old shoe leather, rather than being anything any human being on Earth would want to consume. Have you ever asked yourself, would I pay money for my own record? Have you ever looked past your ambition and considered if what you're creating is something anybody else would actually enjoy? Now, given the submissions I've gotten on my Monday Mix Review show, I'm guessing that a lot of you probably haven't asked that question. And I do think we are all guilty, myself included, of the I made it, therefore it's awesome fallacy every once in a while, and we tend to overvalue our own songs. When it comes to music, the labels used to filter the content. Yeah, there were probably some bands that were wrongfully passed over. Decca Records made one of the dumbest moves ever when they said no to the Beatles. However, labels did act as a content filter and brought you at least what they hoped would sell. In 2024, you are now that content filter, and you're going to have to wade through an ocean of shit before you find anything good. I go back to the original GarageBand.com days, and it was bad enough then. I listened to hundreds of songs, and most of them were just downright awful. But I did manage to find a couple of killer tracks. A badly recorded song called Sympathy, can't remember the band name, but they could have fit right in on an Alice in Chains record. And an utterly killer track called The Professional by a band called Thrust from Kansas City. And it's a fucking shame that they never got a record deal. But these days, with over 10,000 songs being uploaded to Spotify every single day, there's more music being created than anybody can listen to in a single lifetime. There's essentially an infinite supply of it. And because of that, music has become disposable. And your music, well, it's like throwing a grain of sand onto a beach. Good luck finding it. I recently went to go see Ginger and Monuments and bumped into Drew Masters, publisher of Meat Magazine, a Canadian metal publication that I volunteered to distribute in Windsor way back in the 90s because I really wanted to help the Canadian music scene any way I could. These days though, Drew doesn't even do album reviews anymore. There's simply too much being produced to keep up with. He only reviews concerts. I found that really interesting. Look, it is wonderful that we've got this amazing technology available to anybody who wants to write and record music. Now, instead of awful songs with awful production, we get awful songs that have the humanity completely sanitized out of them. But we still have really great guitar sounds that have been stretched, squeezed, shifted, and nudged onto a grid. This has gone well beyond editing. It's time to call it what it really is. Audio molestation. Yes, I am speaking to you right there. If you look at a screen full of tracks and your first instinct is to start moving things to get the spikes on the line, you are not a music producer, you're an assembly line worker. Now, one of the most common gripes I read in the comments about me is, well, who the hell is he? What's he ever done? Where are his gold records? Like somehow possessing one of those is the only qualification for giving useful recording advice. Okay, well, here's an uncomfortable truth. You are making metal the same way that Chrysler builds minivans. Take it from the guy who built them for 27 fucking years! Assembly line work is the same repetitive task over and over endlessly, just like you're doing to the tracks your band just laid down. And in the metal world, it's pretty obvious that most of these self-produced tracks are being created by guitar players, because I get so many submissions on Mondays that are guitar instrumentals. Really long, really boring, really self-indulgent guitar instrumentals that nobody in their right mind would ever listen to more than once. Look, I get it, you're trying to be the next Eddie Van Halen, but you're not even Eddie Munster. You need to mix it up. You want to hear a great instrumental? Go put on Edgar Winter's Frankenstein. All right, how many of you guys just went da 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 da? Yeah, that's because Frankenstein had an instantly hummable main riff. But the song didn't get boring because there was more to it than the bottom 4 frets on an open string. There was a keyboard solo, a horn bridge, and a call and answer solo between timbales and rock drums. That kept things fresh and exciting because there was actual songwriting involved. But me, if I'm lucky enough to come across a song with vocals, they're usually the screaming, grunting variety as opposed to actual singing, because singing is really hard. Which really sucks, because I was attracted to metal in the first place because of the vocals. Because the singing was so incredible. We had Rob Halford, Ronnie James Dio, Ozzy Osbourne, Jeff Tate, Bruce Dickinson, Ian Gillan. The list goes on and on. Even the grunge era gave us Chris Cornell. These guys could really belt it out. However, these days we get... Okay, that's not entirely true. Joseph Michael from Witherfall is a fucking monster singer, but he's the exception and not the rule. And it's very, very rare to find a metal band these days with a truly great singer. I don't think all hope is lost, however. The first thing that needs to be realized is that you're not in the business of selling music. All the music lessons, rehearsals, shows, studio sessions, press releases, interviews, music videos, all are there to do one thing: to help you sell t-shirts, because that's the only place where you're going to make any money in music in 2024. T-shirts can't be downloaded. They're a real, tangible object that people will buy, and they'll wear them proudly. What's really cool is vinyl is also starting to make a serious comeback. If you've got the budget, you can try pressing some so you can upsell them alongside your t-shirts at gigs. Make it a 2-in-1 discount package. And speaking of shirts, you ever wonder what a metal band sounds like that you've never heard before? Look at what shirts they're wearing. I wish that were a joke, but unfortunately it's more truth than humor. And that kind of sucks. Please keep this in mind, is that you need more than just a limited number of influences. Geddy Lee had a great line in his book, My Effin' Life. If you've got 3 influences, you're derivative. But if you've got 100 influences, then you're original. And if you've been paying attention, Metallica gave away the secret to finding your own sound way back in the early 80s. Check out this clip.
Angel Witch, say, Venom, Motorhead, Rush, Diamond Head.
In 18 seconds, they listed Merciful Fate, Venom, Motorhead, Diamond Head, Rush, ZZ Top, Black Sabbath, and Mustaine mentions Angel Witch twice. Interestingly enough, if you put on the first Angel Witch record, the lead playing sounds an awful lot like Mustaine, but it's actually the other way around. Now, what was super cool was I got to hang backstage in 2023 at Megadeth's Budokan show in Tokyo, where I had the privilege of meeting Angel Witch's drummer. I thought that was incredibly cool that all these years later, the main influences are now honored guests at Megadeth shows. Very cool move, guys. But my overall point here is that Metallica found their sound by combining all of those influences, not just a few. And that band rocked the entire world. So why can't you do the same? Look, it is cool that you love the music that you do, but don't be afraid to go outside of your comfort zone and see what else is happening in other musical landscapes. Find something cool about it and then bring that to the table and demand the same from your bandmates. Because if you're all into the same 3 gent bands, then your band isn't going to impress anybody. We've seen this happen way too many times over the last few decades. The clone bands, Nirvana, Metallica, Pantera, Korn, and now Meshuggah have a million sound-alikes that are bringing absolutely nothing to the table. Do a serious self-evaluation and ask yourself this: is your project doing the same? And once you've got a sound, don't be afraid to take chances in the studio. Try something nobody does anymore. Record live off the floor as a band and throw the metronome in the garbage where it belongs. Just get on the floor and rock the fuck out. Music does not have to be perfect to be great. The Sex Pistols track, God Save the Queen, was just featured on the new season of The Boys, and 48 years later, it still holds up. The vocal performance on that song is positively savage. They weren't being brutal for the sake of being brutal. They were genuinely pissed off, disaffected youth who didn't see a place for themselves in mid-70s British society. And that anger came through in the music. The production is far from perfect. Listen to that guitar track. It's in mono, it's down the center, and there are missed notes. You listen to the vocals. There's definitely no pitch correction going on, and nothing in that song has been timelined. And I would much rather listen to this than some sonic paddlum masquerading as metal, because it's legit, and it's fierce and inspired. So do yourself a favor and go get inspired. Go write a kick-ass protest song. If you're young, there's more than enough happening in the world to get pissed off about. I mean, just look at the housing situation you're facing. Doesn't that piss you off? I keep asking this, but where the hell is this generation's Rage Against the Machine? The world needs a new band with a fresh sound to put its foot up the ass of this mediocrity that we've been deluged with. Now, another strategy to generate interest for your band would be to not put every single detail of your life online. Rock stars used to have mystique, but the internet killed the rock star. Now everybody knows everything about everyone, but a little bit of mystery can go a very long way. Maybe limit yourself to one platform and don't update every 3 seconds. Make anything you post an event. Hell, don't even post a picture of yourselves. Try a silhouette shot. I'm going to be doing a deep dive on this in the future video. Stay tuned for that. Now, another thing to keep in mind is you need to be honest with yourself. Are you and your bandmates doing this for fun, or are you making an honest effort at having a career? Set your expectations accordingly, because if you aim to have a career, you need to start putting money aside to hire a publicist. You need a press release for any major event. But that's just the beginning. You can't sit on your ass because the PR company can't do it all. You have to convince the people you're trying to reach that your band is worth giving a shit about. And the easiest way to do that is by releasing singles and not albums, because you can adjust your single release timings accordingly and always have a release coming up as opposed to waiting years between albums. Now, I've been told that the place to be checking out these days is TikTok, because apparently it's really happening for new music these days. And that sounds fantastic, because anything has got to be better than the Facebook meat grinder. That's it for today. I'm Glenn Fricker, and go fuck yourself, San Diego. Now, what was super cool, killer music venue right on Windsor's main drive. This was a killer music, people who band would be to, they're all dried out here.